Okay, these are the 10 multiple choice questions from Friday's homework. So this is number 1, and all you have to do was find the antiderivative. So you'll get -2 over -2 as it goes from 1 to 2. So if you simplify that first, you will get -1 over 2x squared as it goes from 1 to 2. So first you're going to substitute 2 into there, and then you're going to substitute 1 into there. And you'll get -1 over 8 plus, because a negative became positive, 1/2. And if you find a common denominator, you get 4 over 8. And your final answer would be 3 over 8, which was choice D. Okay, this is question number 2, and you needed the fourth derivative. So the first derivative will be a chain rule. And if you simplify that, you get that. Okay, then you need the second derivative. And if you simplify that, you get this. Okay, then you need the third derivative. And if you simplify that, I'm going to erase up here to make some room. Okay, so this is going to go all the way up here. Okay, 96 times 2 is 192. And then keep the 2x plus 1. And if you want, you could do another chain rule, or you can multiply that out, so you don't have to deal with the chain rule. And then finally, you're going to get the fourth derivative. And it's 384. So it did say to find it when x equals 0, but even if you were to look at the fourth derivative as x equals 0, there's no x to put that in, so it's still 384. And that was answer E. Okay, this is number 3, and all you had to do was find the derivative. So it's the bottom times the derivative of the top minus the top times the derivative of the bottom all over the bottom squared. So because you're multiplying by 0, this whole thing wipes out. And that was choice A. Okay, for this one you needed to find the antiderivative. So it's definitely going to be sine of 2x, but if you do a check for this, so I'll do that in a different color. Okay, so let's say I do a check to make sure that it matches. The derivative of sine of 2x is going to be cosine of 2x times the derivative of x is 2. So compare that to that, and you can see that there's 2 times too much. So how do you get rid of 2 times too much? You divide by 2. So therefore the original has to be sine of 2x over 2 plus c, and that was choice C. Okay, number 5. Okay, so this is a limit as n goes to infinity. So what you're supposed to be looking for is where the highest degree is, and so you can see they're both the same in the numerator and the denominator. So therefore you take the coefficients, which would be 4 over 1, or just 4, and that was choice D. Okay, for number 6, f of x equals x, and therefore f prime of x just equals 1, and that was choice C. Okay, for number 7, you need to play around with all these different things until you can get it to equal to ln of 4. So if you try choice A, this is what you're given. And if you use the log rules, you would end up with ln of 3 times 1, because addition and multiplication go together. And this would just give you ln of 3. But your answer has to be ln of 4. So therefore, A cannot be the answer. Okay, for B, it was this. And this you can't do anything with, because this is not that. Those two are not equal. So B, there's no way that that's going to be ln of 4. Forget that. Okay, for C, it's the integral from 1 to 4 of e to the t dt. So the antiderivative of e to the t is e to the t as it goes from 1 to 4. This gives you e to the 4 minus e to the 1. And I don't know how that is possibly ever going to equal ln of 4, so C is out. Okay, now we go to D. Okay, so the antiderivative of ln of the x means, what was it before? So when you took the derivative you got ln x? There is nothing, so forget that. That's D. Okay, and then E is this. So the antiderivative of 1 over t is ln t as it goes from 1 to 4. Substitute 4, substitute 1. Well, ln of 1, hopefully you should know, is 0. So this just equals ln of 4, and that matches, so that is choice E. Okay, for number 8, you need to find the derivative. So the derivative of ln of something is 1 over that something times the derivative of the something. Okay, so the something is x over 2, but x over 2 can be written as 1/2 x. So the derivative of that would just be 1/2. Okay, 1 over x over 2 is just the reciprocal of x over 2, which is 2 over x, and it's still being multiplied by 1/2. Then those twos cancel, and you're left with 1 over x. And then you need to find y prime of 4, so substitute x with 4, you get 1/4, and that is choice B. Okay, moving on to number 9. Okay, so you were given that this thing from -1 to 1 is equal to k. So we talked about how when you make a number line, it's so much easier to think of it in terms of that. So if this is -1, let's say this is 0 and this is 1. So to go from -1 to 1, the area under that curve is equal to k. That's what this is saying. So now the question is asking, what if you just go from -1 to 0? Well, -1 to 0 is this piece right here, which is exactly half of k. So it would just be equal to k over 2, which is choice D. Another thing that you could have done is use your calculator to figure out what k is, and then just do it again from -1 to 0 and see the relationship. Okay, and finally for number 10, here's y, and you need to find the derivative of that, and we did this a long time ago. This was one of those situations where it's y equals a to the u, So I don't know if you remember that, but we'll go over it right now. So when you have a constant to an exponent, the derivative is going to be the constant to the exponent, then ln of the constant times the derivative of the exponent. And that was choice D. So that finishes the homework.